Hi everyone, I can't believe it's Christmas Eve. Not long until Father Christmas is going to be coming down your chimney and delivering all of those presents for you. But before he does, let's read chapter 24 of how Winston came home for Christmas. Now, it's extra special today because there are 2 instalments of this, so make sure you keep an eye out. So I'm going to read part 1 and then somebody's going to be reading part 2 for you at the end. Are we ready? Chapter 24, I've missed you. The sleigh landed on the icy ground of Mistletoe Street with a bump before gently coming to a stop. The blizzard had blown over and now the snow was falling softly like icing sugar on a cake, and the street itself had never looked lovelier. The hodgepodge roofs of buildings were too much of a jumble for Father Christmas to land safely upon, so instead he parked his sleigh at the bottom of the hill in the little park by the frozen duck pond and began delivering his presents. During the flight, Winston had giggled when he'd heard Father Christmas exclaim, "Goodness, where have you come from?" as Lytton had landed with a bit of a clatter beside him at the front of the sleigh. Once Lytton had caught his breath, he swooped excitedly around the flying herd with his nose glowing. The reindeer had bowed their antlers to the visitor and insisted that he join them. With Father Christmas's back turned, Winston and his siblings emerged from one of the enormous sacks of presents. "Do you think she'll have made it here yet?" asked Wilfred anxiously. "It's a long way for her to have travelled on her own, and anything could have happened on her journey." Winston agreed that this was true, but something within him told him that if anyone could do it, it was his mum. He must have got his adventurous spirit from someone after all. The air was tingling with Christmas magic, and despite the cold, Winston felt a warmth glowing inside him. He led his mouse family out of the little park and onto the street. In the distance, the cathedral bells were chiming, the snow was falling gently over the sleeping buildings, and the shop windows were glowing brightly like jewels in the darkness. The night smelt of frost mingled with the warming smell of the smoke dancing in the ribbons from the higgledy chimney pots. Winston hadn't walked far when he noticed footprints in the snow. Tiny mouse footprints. "She's here," Winston whispered. He felt that curious sensation in his chest, the one that had led him on this journey, and it was urging him on again. "It's like Lytton's nose," thought Winston to himself. "It's leading me in the right direction of where I need to be." The footsteps led up the hill of Mistletoe Street towards the toy shop, and Winston and his siblings followed them. It was a steep climb for tiny paws, and especially for Winston. His paws were the smallest, and he was feeling tired. It had been a long few days, and he'd slept so little, but he was excited too. It wiggled about inside him now, dancing around with a flicker of nerves. What would he say when he saw his mum again? He heard the bells begin to chime a different tune. It was his tune, his mum's special lullaby. Winston's heart hammered in his chest. He started to run. He left his siblings to follow him as he raced up the streets, his paws stitching a little line of paw prints beside his mother's, and his scarf flying wildly out behind him. The road wiggled round one corner, and then another, and then the toy shop window, with his beautiful doll's house home in the centre of it, was lit up, its warm yellowy orange glow so cosy against the cold night. And there she was, in the street below, looking up at the sparkling display, was a little mouse, all bundled up against the chill and silhouetted against the light. It was his mum. Winston walked towards her slowly as the lullaby rang out around them. She turned. For a moment, Winston and his mum just looked at each other. All was quiet except the sound of Winston's heart beating in his little chest. He took everything in. Their matching velvet noses, their matching pink cheeks. There was so much to be said, important things. But where to start? Should he tell her about how he got lost, or about the adventures he'd been on to find her? About his adventure that had crisscrossed this way and that way across the world? No. In the end, Winston realised that sometimes, at moments like this where there is a lot to say, the best thing to do is actually say nothing at all. So instead they ran to each other, their paws pattering across the snow and their arms outstretched, and they squeezed each other in the tightest hug you can ever imagine. It was the type of hug that said the only thing that was really important. It said, I've missed you. And that's the end of the first part of our chapter 24. Remember to stay tuned for the very last instalment of Winston, how Winston came home for Christmas. I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. See you later.